All right, let's do another thing here. This is now focusing on this type of blemish, some scratches, some scratches and scratches. No, maybe some cracks and rips and folds, all sorts of fairly big features. And one easy way to fix those is by using the brush in clone mode. So you go to clone mode, and then you simply, instead of dragging across, actually I'm already in that mode here, but if you were in the regular mode like default, and you were to do with the Alt key, you press down, it's not doing what you want, it's actually painting over, right? What we want to do is identify a portion, drag it down to the area that's in trouble, and then paint over that, right? So let's go first to clone mode, and then we'll say press the Alt key, press and hold the Alt key, and then click and drag, and now you can let go of the Alt key and basically draw it in this area. So let's do that again. This darker area needs to go in here. Let me zoom in a little bit. So I'm going to go here, press the Alt key, click and drag. There you go. And now we have this. Now we can paint over that. Now let's say here, this one here is maybe a little bit too bright too. Maybe we want to get rid of that. So let's get the slightly darker area here, click and drag, and then you can paint over that. How about this little thing here? Let's click and drag from here, and boom. So it's basically cloning, it's replicating with that offset, whatever the transition is when you do the click and drag. Like for instance, here I have some brighter spots. I'm going to go from about here, click and drag, and let go of the mouse, let go of the Alt key, and then you can paint over that, and it's grabbing it from above here. Now sometimes you'll see that pattern repeat, so you got to be careful to have something that's somewhat big or somewhat random. You also want to have a brush perhaps that is relatively, covering this area pretty well. So pay attention to the size of your custom brush. Something like this will be good. You can see how it's covering this. You just want to make sure it's coming from this area, not from something brighter, because if you grab it from here, right, with the Alt key down, oops, hold on, let's do that again. Oh, since I changed some parameters here, it also reset the mode from that stored brush. So I want to make sure I'm going back to clone. Anyway, if I pick it from here, Alt, click and drag, that'll be too bright. It won't be covering this properly. So I need something a little bit darker. Let's grab this area. Boom. Now I can go a little bit more like this. Let's say here, maybe this area, click and drag, a little bit darker. There you go. Maybe this area here, going to the right. There. So you see how that can gradually disappear. And then also this area, we can probably just paint over that. As long as you're within bounds here, let's go make it a little bit smaller. If we change the size here on the current active brush, it's not resetting this here. The mode is still clone. All right. So let's say this area we want to do a little bit darker, more like this. Alt key down, press and drag, let go of the mouse, let go of the Alt key, and then you can paint this thing over. And how crisp or how sudden that transition is, that's a function you can adjust with the alpha here, the opacity. There's a couple of other things you may want to fine tune a little bit, but essentially with this you can remove some of the features that are too big to go with little spot painting over. And so what I would do is clone paint on that. Right, so let's take a look at this one. We need this darker, it's too bright here. This is why we see that streak or that scratch. So let's grab it from over here. Let's press the Alt key, go and drag and release, and then you can paint over that. Now, of course, it's the same part of the arm that we actually show. Whatever was here is now showing here. So that's usually okay. Sometimes you have a fold or two, and the third one won't hurt it. So let's do here, click and drag, and bingo. Now that's going too dark here, so we may want to grab this. Click and drag and bring this in here. This one's a little bit too dark here. Click and drag, something like that. So you're gonna have some areas that you need some special attention, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less there on the opacity, a little bit smaller also to get some finer control. And let's see what we can do here. This one here probably needs to be a little bit darker. So Alt, click and drag, and then paint this in. Right. Click and drag. There you go. All right, let's continue this scratch here. Let's get rid of this scratch. So here, Alt from about here and there. Alt, click and drag here, boom. Alt, click and drag here, boom. Alt, click and drag here, Alt, click and drag here. So you see, it's very quick. It's a very quick restoration process that way. Just keep your left hand on the Alt key if you have the mouse in your right hand. So here I'm going to go grab this area and move it down. So click Alt key down, press and hold the Alt key, drag it down, and then you can go over that. This one has it a little bit brighter, so let's go for the darker side. Click and drag, and there. This one is too bright also. Let's go from here, click and drag, boom. And this part, click and drag, something like this. And so you can see you can quite reasonably quickly restore some of that. Now maybe I went there a little bit too fast, but you can probably get rid of some of the streaks. This one here definitely needs some extra work. Let's see if we can do that quickly here. This area here would be good to continue here. So click Alt key down, click and drag, and then paint, and bingo. Right, there it is. Let's see what else. This brighter part up a little bit. Click and drag, and go like this. And maybe mimic some of these folds so it kind of blends into that pattern. And then soon enough you won't notice there unless you really know exactly what was there. Okay, let's do one more. This bright spot here. Alt key, click and drag, and boom, done. Click and drag, done. Click and drag, done. All right, so that's a technique that you can use to fix quite a number of scratches. Here is another one. Alt, click and drag. Again, it's just restoring it from what we are pointing at initially. So if I click with the Alt key, it now uses that area and translates it by that amount, whatever I have moved. Click and drag. I want to basically go from the source to the target. I want to say, hey, this, and that's, by the way, something you can use to also do some spot corrections, right? If you see this little spot here, you just click and drag from nearby. It grabs that pattern and it's done. You don't need to load that into a brush and make it a soft edge and all that stuff. If you like this part of the hair not so much, then you do a Alt, click and drag, and paint over it, and it's gone. All right, so let's see if we can in fact use this technique for a few more little blemishes, some minor ones. I know there's one next to the button. Let's not get rid of the button, but let's fix this little one here. Simply use the Alt key, click and drag, and boom. Right, all we did is replicated this pattern over there. It took it over, and because we have a soft edge on that brush, it's not doing too much of a sudden transition, cutting it off or something. There's a tiny little bright spot here, not much. Let's do a click and drag and just put it right there. All right, so that's hopefully going to give you some ideas of how you can actually restore some of these older pictures pretty nicely and quickly, compared to some other techniques that might seem a little bit too time-consuming and tedious. Is there any other? Well, there's a fold here. I don't know if that's a scratch or if that's a fold in the fabric. We'll leave this one be. There's a couple of, maybe these are buttons on the side of the pants here. Some lederhosen. So maybe this one here. There's a little ghost image of sorts. So I'm going to do the last one here. Alt key down from here to here. And there we go. Alt key down from here to here. And that's a little bit too dark, okay? So we need to perhaps get the opacity down a little bit. And then also, or grab it from a different area that's not so dark. And then just go over that. And Alt key down here. So you can probably do develop a couple of techniques here for these. Oh, there's a bright spot. Alt key down and up. Boom. All right, well, thanks for watching. I hope this will help you restore more of these beautiful historical documents, right? All right, thank you.